Hello, I am Tim Bosby, the Action Wrestling World Champion, and I'm second to none. And if you want to be second to none like me, then you should be watching CCP Podcasting.
What is happening, friends of CCP Podcasting? Welcome back to Fireside Chat 2.0. I am Chris Page, and as you can see right over here to the right of me, my guest today comes to us from Wrestling Junkies Podcast over on YouTube, over on social media. He is Mr. Cincinnati. What is happening? Welcome to your first Fireside Chat, brother. How are you?
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Been looking forward to this for a while, so excited to dive in.
Dude, this has been an adventure thus far in professional wrestling, and what this Fireside Chat is, for those of you, if it's your first time watching, let me go ahead and just clue you in, smarten you up. This is where I bring in somebody to go 60 minutes with me, and, you know, the biggest question of all, if I had to quote my inner Cody Rhodes, Mr. Cincinnati, what do you want to talk about?
Man, I think that's the perfect point here. Are we setting up for like the most seismic heel turn coming up here within the next couple of months? I mean, whether it's Cody, whether it's John Cena, whether it's CM Punk, road to WrestleMania is looking fucking nuts right now, especially on the side of the WWE Championship, Undisputed Championship picture, I should say. Let's start there, man. Elimination Chambers this weekend. I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen or what to expect.
Well, I mean, anytime The Rock comes out and says, I want your soul, that's probably not the best way to start 2025 if you're Cody Rhodes. I'm not sure where that's headed, to be perfectly fair. You know, they pulled the switcheroo of a lifetime last year, and there's really no telling, especially with the TKO merger. The Rock is on the board, so he kind of got some pull. I'm very curious to see. I think it's a little too early to turn Cody, but I do think that something seismic is coming. I just don't know what, and I'm very curious to see for myself. And I guess a piece of that will be answered tomorrow night. You know, Cody's got to give his answer. What is he going to do?
Yeah, and I mean, it almost feels like the start of a new kind of team corporate sort of vibe. I mean, one thing that we've kind of seen in Triple H and Shawn Michaels from a booking perspective, that they're kind of going back to things that they observed or experienced. I mean, Ethan Page losing his smile, them turning that into a story. You know, Triple H kind of, going back to this nod of, almost a nod to Austin versus McMahon as far as this champion with the final boss. I mean, having Rock around as a villain right now that does not need to get in the ring is a nice touch to have every few months. I mean, I think having his involvement and having a hand-picked champion is a way to have the final boss presence all the time on WWE TV without worrying about him coming in and having to get ready for a match in order to effectuate that. He can just play a character, which he's really, really good at. I like the idea of this for that reason, because we're only going to have so many Rock matches left before it's all said and done. Let's be more sporadic about how we use those and not necessarily just at WrestleMania.
No, I agree 100%. Going to go to the chat real quick. No game unturned. It's been a few years since the road to WrestleMania has this many curves to it. Max Stone, Punk aligning with The Rock, heading into the main event of Mania. Punk shocks the world by shaking hands with Dwayne, the man he despises, who stole his main event slot from 2012. I mean, there's a lot of different little possibilities that could happen here. And I think, I don't think any of them are wrong. I think there's so many ways that they could go here that could really make things a hell of a lot interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's half the fun. I mean, I think a lot of the problem with WrestleMania in the, especially towards the end of the Vince McMahon era, was everything did feel very kind of rinse and repeat, and it was easy to predict what was going to happen. But they're definitely doing a great job of keeping us on our toes here. And I mean, this is wildly different from what we saw in the build last year, which was already bonkers in and of itself.
No, sure, and that's the piece of the equation. We know we're getting Jey Uso and Gunther, which I'm kind of excited about because I think they're going to pull the trigger on Jey, and I'm okay with that. I am so okay with that. There's a lot of interesting things, but while that is a major story, like the bigger story is what happens here with The Rock. So, is Jay's Rumble win kind of getting swept under the rug a little bit, or I know it's a team game, right? I was a part of it for several years in my younger and much more athletic days, so I get it. I do understand the pieces of the puzzle here, but does Jey Uso and Gunther headline? Is that something you think, or you think that he's going to get passed on?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because they have worked really hard and Jey has worked really hard to get over with the fans as a single star. I mean, that move to Raw was a bit of a slow start. I thought it was counterintuitive to have him and Jimmy split, and then for Jey to go to Raw just to win the tag titles with Cody. But the way that he has gotten over with the crowd, and he's so beloved, has a viral entrance that, and I've said this on our show too, you put a belt around his waist and a celebrity to the left or right of him as you're making that entrance on a Netflix or on a PLE, like that is something that is going to grab headlines. As we sit here right now, I do not see this closing either night of WrestleMania. I think that this is one of those matches that I think will probably open night one. Gunther does not have there's just something different about the aura of Gunther as World Heavyweight Champion compared to Gunther as Intercontinental Champion going into WrestleMania last year. The problem, I think, is because he spent so much time feuding with Damian Priest over the rematch, and Damian Priest is also feuding with Finn Balor for costing him the title. So Gunther got swept up in the Judgment Day split, which took entirely too long to effectuate in the first place, as far as that final blow-off street fight match, that he lost some of that luster. Losing to Cody Rhodes was fine at Crown Jewel, but he didn't need to babyface and shake hands and kind of they didn't need to test the waters of Gunther as a tweener. Look at that man's face. That's a fucking heel. And now here we are, and they're not going to be in the main event, which would have been nice.
I kind of agree, and Max agrees as well. He thinks Jey and Gunther are going on night one. I am kind of indifferent on Gunther being a babyface or a heel. I think Gunther's one of those Steve Austin characters that you just let the crowd organically determine one way or the other, because there have been moments here over the last couple of months where, depending on where they're at, like Gunther's gotten the babyface pop. There's legs there, but I think you let the crowd make that decision. I don't think you play with it. You let it happen. To me, some of the best professional wrestling is organic. It's something that is not, the story has changed, if you will. Like, take last year's WrestleMania build as the example. We thought we were getting Cody and Roman, and they tried to pull The Rock and pull the switcheroo. It didn't work. The fans hated it. I mean, they don't think they hated it. That's probably a strong word, but
there was backlash, though.
There was a lot of it too, and I hope that they make the right decision. They being the WWE, as far as what they do and how they present it and how they move forward with it. But I agree. I think Gunther right now needs to get back to that vicious, like I don't want to indie Gunther is what I want to see. That's exactly what I want to see. Is let me see this guy get out here and go to work, because I know he can. I've seen it.
Yeah.
He did get swept up. He did get lost in the sauce, in my opinion. And I hope that that he bounces back. But I do think they're setting him up to drop the belt to Jey, which I'm fine with. But what does that do with his title reign? His title, that he's not the most memorable run here when it could have been.
Yeah, I mean, of the if you had to rank the 3 title reigns that Gunther has had across his time in WWE, which I mean, he's held a belt for the majority of that, but this would be dead last. Nothing tops that UK title reign, Intercontinental. I mean, honestly, yeah, we'll put the Intercontinental title reign first because he broke a record, longest reigning of all time. Like, he restored a prestige to that belt that was long gone, and did a fabulous job with it. But yeah, not the same here for the World Heavyweight title. That's not to say that they won't get it right the next time that he's world champion, because he will be world champion again. But yeah, don't mess with the character. Don't if the fans want to cheer for him, let us make that decision. But let's not do it prematurely.
No, I agree 100%. I know we jumped straight into fucking WWE stuff, but I do want to take a minute and let's talk about your podcast. Let's talk about the Wrestling Junkies show, what you guys have going on a little bit there, and then we'll dive back into some wrestling stuff. If you guys have any questions in chat, go ahead and drop them in. We'll be sure to answer or ask them so we can get some answers for you. But talk to me a little bit about your platform. What did you and old Pod Dad get together and figure we'll try to make a run of this, I guess.
Yeah, so Chris and I met at a beer Olympics during COVID. So smart, I know. But I was wearing an Edge T-shirt, one off of his Pro Wrestling Tee store, and by this point in the day that we did meet each other, I mean, we're both kind of lost in the sauce. It's been a long day, but Chris sees me in the backyard, and he like nudges to his wife, check out that guy's wrestling shirt, and he thought he was whispering, and when Chris gets hammered, he's not fucking whispering. But yeah, no, got to talking, and just the conversation honestly has not stopped in the 5 years that we've been doing this. So I had previously had a podcast that ended right before COVID hit. Things just life just kind of happened. But once I knew I kind of wanted to give this a try again, he was the first person I thought about, hey, do you just want to, talk some wrestling to kind of see where this goes? And a lot of trial and error, different variations of setups. I mean, at one point we were just recording on our phones and using, our iPads to do Zoom calls to create the video. And it was a very, very clunky operation that's been streamlined over the years, but here we are almost 2 years later, over 300 episodes in, and it's fucking great. I mean, to sit down and just go live 4 nights a week talking wrestling, it's just the coolest fucking thing in the world.
You're preaching to the choir. Except we're a little different. You guys talk wrestling, but we're watching a lot of it, and of course I understand the trial and error aspect of it as well, brother. If I sent you some of our first videos, you would laugh your ass off. You would have such a good time with how terrible it is. And it just, I'm real big on organic, and just that's like, even with our, the platform itself, we're grassroots the whole way around, and I'm a big proponent of that. Like, the trials and tribulations that we went through before we finally found something that hit, and I was like, all right, now I think I'm good here. But we, wanted to do something more, and watching old wrestling, while that's good, great, and wonderful, the independence is where it was at. And once we pivoted a year and a half, man, we haven't looked back. And building the audience is the fun part about it, I think, at least for me. Because like I tell people all the time, we're going to do this shit whether you watch it or you don't. I'm not here for your view, for a view count or anything like that. Like, if somebody likes what we do, then great. Watch. Have fun with it. If you don't like it, don't fucking watch it. It's not going to hurt my feelings, I promise.
Yeah, that's how we are too. I mean, you've been on our show. We're always just tell one person. If you liked what we did on our show, tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your situationship, tell your dispensary guy. Like, just share the wealth. Like, we there's enough shitty parts about the IWC that we're trying to enjoy the show. We are critical of WWE. There are things we like and don't like, and we'll instead of just kind of shit can on it, it's okay. I didn't like it for this reason. Here's what I would do differently if I had the pencil. Same thing with AEW. Like it's okay to like both, and it seems like such a foreign concept in 2025, and I have no fucking idea why.
It's the tribalism, and personally, I mean, I'm an old fuck. I always say I'm the get off my lawn guy. I see it as people in general, and this is just social media in general. It's everyone feels like they've got a voice, and everybody's voice needs to be heard. When unfortunately, there are some people in the world that just don't understand that maybe that's not the right look, or maybe I'm a firm believer that there's so much negativity out there now. Like, why do I want? I'm not going to contribute to it. I got better things to do with my time and my energy. I think we talked a little bit of this on your show, AEW. I'm not the biggest fan. I think that they've got a very talented fucking roster, and there's no reason why they're not higher up the food chain right now than they are. Are they the number 2 company? Yeah, absolutely. In the United States, let me preface. But they could easily be number 1 if you look at the roster and you put the roster side by side.
Yeah.
There's a lot that can happen there, and I, for the life of me, can't understand why. That it's just not. It's not there. It's not hitting. I remember back in my day when it first came out. Man, I was in front of my TV every Wednesday. I was watching for 2 years, and then it just man, this is the same for me.
Yeah.
So instead of watching and bitching about it, I would just found somebody in the UK who loves AEW, and he's my correspondent. That's all I need you. So that's what I need you for. You do the AEW shit, and we're good to go. It just clears up a couple hours of my time.
It makes sense, and we've certainly noticed, in our viewing habits when it comes to AEW, especially after World's End 2023. That was kind of the like, all right, this was your worst fucking show of the year. Like, you saved the worst for the end of the year, and it was one of those things where it's like they need to rebound fast after, because that Devil story just didn't work, okay. And it sucks that it limped to the finish line, and it's instead of abandoning shit, which I probably would have done, but after that it has been just upswing from there, as far as, especially from the pay-per-view cards that they put together. You don't necessarily always need to watch Dynamite every week to enjoy the pay-per-views every couple of months. I still find it very refreshing that they don't run every single month the way the WWE does, and I think that that's certainly something that makes them special, that they continue to take advantage of. But yeah, it had been tough for a while to just tune in every single week, and same thing with Collision, but that's also finally on the upswing too. So I'm pumped for Revolution this week, or next weekend for sure. It's just, like I said, I don't necessarily always watch the TV up to the build there. I
mean, I get it. I understand that too. And that's just the thing. Like AEW, they put on some fucking really good pay-per-views. There's no doubt about it. It's the match qualities are there, and I do think that go back to you could be the same as or different than. How can you be different than the WWE? Yeah, they do pay-per-view every month. We'll do it every 2 or 3 months or every quarter, and it allows you to kind of play with several different aspects and several different things. And while we're talking about AEW and Revolution, what do you think's going to happen here with Cope and John Moxley, man? I'm not sold. I'm just telling you now up front, I'm not sold.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with the Death Riders. I love the members of that group. I think that they all work really, really well together. I don't necessarily understand what their end game is here. It seems like the original objective was to essentially take over AEW, destroy it from within. Why isn't Kenny feuding with them? Where the fuck are the Young Bucks? Like, they've not necessarily, they've made it clear as mud that they're trying to take over from within, just because they've been super cryptic in their promos. But you would think, if you're battling for the very soul of AEW, that the founding fathers, sans Cody, would be jumping into that fight and being like, what do we have to do to get rid of these guys once and for all? And as much as I enjoy the presentation of Marina Shafir with the briefcase, I want to see the fucking world title. Like, why would you not have your world championship on display on TV?
Yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me either. And to be fair, I didn't even know that the briefcase was a thing until a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a week or so ago.
Okay.
And that was my boy Devlin over in the UK was like, oh yeah, they got him toting around the belt in the briefcase. It's an old school thing, like, not gonna let you see it. Don't I get it, but it's like it barely worked in the '80s. It's definitely not gonna work in 2025. I think the audience.
Even Orange Cassidy. Yeah, even Orange Cassidy with his he'll pull the international title out of his backpack once he gets to the ring. But with Moxley, they're not even doing that. It just. I don't get it, but as far as going back to your question of what happens here, it's really hard to say. I think that Cope does walk out with the title, or at least, I'll say that he wins the match, but Christian Cage is still lurking. It would not surprise me if Christian Cage cashes in at Revolution either and takes the easy road to the world title, like he did with the TNT title.
I don't buy Christian Cage as AEW's world champion. I don't buy it.
I get it, yeah.
I like him. I've always liked Christian. I just don't think he's been positioned well enough to do it. And I mean, call me crazy, call me an armchair quarterback, call me whatever the fuck you want to call me, but I believe in what's realistic. And I can only suspend so much disbelief. But if you haven't positioned somebody to be a credible challenger, and I could see him doing it, and it may be getting over on the shitbag heel side of the equation. Ripping the moment away from Cope. But do we really want, Copeland and Christian again? I feel like they milked that story for all it was worth. So what's the benefit from it? I feel like you find yourself. That
is $1 million question.
You find yourself back at square one. Like I'm stuck. Christian's got the belt. We're going to put him back in this thing with Copeland. And you know what? When I'm talking about AEW, this is just a little fun fact of my own. It's in my own little head. Can you tell me how many AEW original talent have held their world title? In the 5 years, whatever, 5 or 6, whatever it is. I can tell you right now, 3.
Yeah, Mox, Jericho, Kenny, right?
Nope. AEW originals.
Oh.
I don't consider Mox or Jericho an AEW original if they came from the WWE. Hangman Adam Page, MJF.
Okay.
Kenny Omega. Anyone else that has held the AEW championship has been under contract with the WWE at some point in time or another. Look it up.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No. Okay. No. I'm with you because I personally would consider Jericho an AEW original because he was first signee, headlined the first pay-per-view with Page. Mox, I guess, is kind of that's a grayer area because Double or Nothing had already that was the next show that they had. So I get where you're coming from now. Yeah.
I say they've been affiliated. They've been contracted with the WWE prior to AEW being a thing. They have personalities that are developed elsewhere versus digging into their homegrown talent. I think that's a piece of a hindrance. If you've got all this great young talent. And truthfully, I think there was a point in time where Orange Cassidy could have ran with the championship. Would I have personally liked it? Not really, but he was over with the crowd. The crowd was, there was a point where that dude got the loudest reactions of anyone that walked out that curtain. Same could be said for Darby Allin. Same could have been said for Wardlow. I think they had the biggest opportunity with Wardlow.
Yeah, they fucked that one up real bad.
There's no coming back. No coming back.
No.
Max Stone says that the Death Riders have been the equivalent of the NWO showing up, only to have people putting up the only people putting up a fight are the Disco Inferno and Van Hammer. There's your reference for old school WCW. And
can't argue with that. Not one bit.
Okay, Max agrees with you. He considers Mox more synonymous with AEW than WWE. So there you go. He sees your point on that far better than mine. Which I'm
It's
okay
just because
with.
that last Dean Ambrose run was dog shit. That was peak Vince McMahon has lost his fucking mind. It just
It was bad. It
God,
was bad.
it was really bad. Yeah.
I'm not a fan. Dude, thank God Vince out of the equation though, because there's so much fantastic stuff that has come out of this since the departure of the former chairman.
Mm-hmm.
In my personal opinion, it's nuts, man. I'm gonna pivot a little bit and shift over to some indie stuff because I'm more knowledgeable with what's going on out in the independent world. When you guys started jumping into your platform, what was when your initial concepts? Were you guys looking to interview talent? Because that's definitely something you got going on. And I believe you guys have you already talked to Hunter James? Was that a this past week thing? Or
Yeah. So we did pre-tape it with Hunter. That's going to be part of our. So we are the official podcast of Coastal Empire Wrestling down in Savannah, Georgia. So give them a follow on X at CEW Savannah. Their most recent show, Keep It Chokehold, that took place last weekend, will be on their YouTube channel this Thursday. But we do their official pre and post show coverage. So Hunter's been on our show. I don't even know how many times at this point. It's always a joy to have him on. But when we started this podcast, we were not even thinking about being able to interview talent in any capacity. What happened was Bryce Cannon, who's also with CEW, Lariato Pro Wrestling, mainstay in Georgia. He and Zach Mosley won Bookers of the Year at the Georgia Wrestling History Awards this year. We had been Facebook friends probably since 2019 when I had my first podcast and interviewed him then, and it was just one of those things where we remained connected but hadn't really talked until we had started to revamp for the Wrestling Junkies. And it was just kind of hey, do you want to come back on and just let's shoot the shit, see what happens. So we got together, did an interview with him, and just the conversation flowed, and he really enjoyed what we brought to the table as far as our interview style and the casual nature of it. So he honestly just started telling locker rooms like, hey, these guys are cool as fuck. You might want to hop on their show. And it kind of just snowballed from there. So, once we had that recommendation, everybody is starting to say, hey, well, we'd love to hop on. And it just, again, off to the races we went. And here we are where, we try to get a handful of guests every month and treat it like a talk show because we want them to come back, and I think that's what makes us different from other podcasts is, we want it to be a revolving door here because there's always going to be some big match or big moment or a big accolade or event that somebody is going to want to talk about. So we want to give them the space to do that.
With us and the platform that we put together, I'm gonna keep it real with you. I was not even interviews wasn't even something that I was looking for at that time.
Yeah,
I did interviews for 2 years right after COVID, and I stopped, and we were looking at other shit, and down in Australia was where our market popped initially, and I just DM'd a guy that I saw on one of these shows, and I saw that he followed me on social media, and I just hit him up, and I was like, hey man, I have no concept whatsoever on what the fuck I'm trying to do here, but I'd love to talk to you. You want to come in and chit chat? Very similar to Bryce Cannon. We've talked to Bryce. We talked to Bryce. We were outside of his inner circle, I think the first people to know about his knee injury, because he found out.
Yeah. Okay.
He found out the results the day that we interviewed him and sat down and talked to him.
Yeah. No, I it's been a hard year for him too, and to see how psyched he's been about the rehab process and spending his time, behind the scenes as far as the creative side, and then getting into the announcing part of things, which he, said that he's definitely going to miss to some degree. But I mean, this is a guy that I think personally, had the knee injury not happened, PWI 500 it would have been a no-brainer, especially after seeing the match that he had with Matt Cardona last spring. Sky was the limit for their hell. He probably would be in the WWE ID prospect conversation, absent the knee injury. But
100%.
he's hungry. He's ready to go. I cannot fucking wait to see what he does next.
I think it's going to be an interesting ride. I'm glad that he's getting back into the swing of things, and he's recovered or is in the process of. I knew that he had dabbled over into some announcing and other odds and ends to kind of scratch that itch, but the guy belongs in the ring. There's no doubt about it.
Oh yeah.
Part of what we do when we know we're going to be talking to somebody, like one of our shows we do on Thursday nights is our spotlight show, where we watch like 2 hours basically of just one particular person plus the opponents, and we always film a spotlight on who we're going to be, sitting down and talking to. We shot a spotlight on Bryce, and I'm telling you, dude, like I've seen some of his stuff, doing other stuff with Georgia. Excuse me. Because Georgia's really near and dear to us, because it's what broke us in the States. I was telling you earlier via text, going back and forth, like I went international because I just felt like there was so much happening here with podcast that I would get lost in the sauce, and how could I stand out? Well, if you go talk to these people on the international market who really truly believe that the United States is the best market that you can be in professional wrestling, and I would be hard pressed to disagree with them, because there's so much happening and there are so many companies here, so many good companies, that it just was the way to go. But when we broke through, we broke in through Georgia, and I think we had Bryce, we had Skrilla the Great. I think we talked to Rico Gonzalez.
We've had Rico on too. Great guy.
Oh, he's fantastic. He's fantastic. Georgia, they just build them different in Georgia, brother. I don't know what to say.
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah, no kidding.
What are some of your highlights so far on the podcasting side of the equation?
Oh man, so kind of going back to that very first time we interviewed Bryce, that we felt good about it. We felt good about the views that we got out of it, and then I very clearly remember I was out. I think this was maybe a Thursday, Friday night, summertime. So I'm out having some drinks with friends. This is probably 10:30 at night. And Bryce texts me. He's like, "Hey, do you see that we made Fightful?" And I'm like, I'm sorry. Could you say that the fuck again? And he sent me the link to, they picked up some excerpts of our interview. And that was kind of one of those, holy shit, like, we're like, we have to keep doing this now, right? Like, even though we're not expecting to be in Fightful every week or every day or every month, but it's still like, holy shit, like, somebody found that interview, watched it, and thought enough to write up about Bryce being on our show. It's just like, all right, fuck yeah, like that's up there. This is probably a 1A 1B situation, but another good friend of the show, Landon Hale, had a match at Action Wrestling 6th anniversary show last year, and that was him competing for the X Division Championship against Mustafa Ali, and we had the opportunity to sponsor that match, and we went down to Georgia. We were there in the front row. It was just one of the coolest fucking experiences of seeing a former guest, finally getting to meet him in person, and being such a part of a big moment in his career was really, really cool, and certainly something that we will never forget. Those have got to be the top moments for sure, I'd say.
Oh, no doubt. Those sound fantastic. We've and you're gonna have many more. I've told you guys privately.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, there's no doubt. It's not a matter if, it's a matter when. With a lot of us that are out here trying to do something positive for professional wrestling in an industry that is super negative or can be super negative. I think that with I think one of our moments that I can really think of off the top of my head. This is why I'm a much better interview guy than a guest, because I have to think when I'm a guest.
Yeah.
I have to think about this question. Man, I think getting the John Cena follow was pretty solid.
Yeah.
Because I can't now. I have to see him. I can't say I don't see him anymore. I mean, the gratification I think for us was being able to really, you say Georgia, we were in Georgia a couple of weeks ago for Change for Wrestling that Narcissism was putting on. We had an opportunity to sponsor a little bit of that, and we drove up and then got to meet several of the guys that we've talked to, got to meet them face to face. That was that again. There's no moment like when you can come across somebody that you've talked to online or you've talked to, in an interview style, and you see them face to face, and like all their faces lit up. And to me, that's like, all right, we did something, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. You enjoyed it because you got a smile on your face, and the welcoming nature of most people. Have you guys? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say we experienced the same thing. We went down to Chattanooga for Cincinnati Invitational last summer, and by that point, there were more than a few people that had been on our show before that were coming up to us to say hello before we got the chance to go and kind of make the rounds and things like that. And it was, I don't know, it was just super. It was just kind of this holy shit. We're just kind of looking at each other, this entire time. Dude, let's try not to mark out here, but people know who the fuck we are. This is different, It will never not be cool because our philosophy when it comes to inviting people on our show is the worst anybody can say is no. If you're not interested, that's okay. It's might not be the right time, right opportunity, what have you, but the way we see it, doors always open. So if you never ask, the answer will always be no. And that's just kind of the philosophy that we take when it comes to approaching guests of, hey, come on the show, come hang out. I think that we do a very good job of researching and preparing for our interviews. And the questions that we are able to ask of people that get them to think that, holy shit, how did you know that? How did you find that sort of energy? That I think that's what we bring to the table is, we want to make sure that we have a goal in mind of, what it is we're going to talk about. And we've had, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Auguste Artois, but he's easily one of the most controversial guests that we've had on the show because he is, what you see is what you get with him. And I remember him saying, he didn't normally do a lot of podcast interviews, but he really liked us because we did our research. He's like, I can't tell you how many times I've been on a podcast where, people are just kind of like, oh, so you wrestle, so tell me about that. And just kind of a very one sentence, open-ended and expecting just kind of a floodgate of answers as opposed to, okay, here are some things we found about you. Let's talk more about this. That's the foundation of good interviews is definitely, doing your research and having some plan of where you want it to go.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Except for I don't do a whole lot of research because usually if I've got somebody coming on, I know what I want to ask and I know what kind of how I want to steer the conversation.
Sure.
And I just sit down and go. I can try even with my co-host. I've got several co-hosts that I'm kind of rotating in on some of these Beyond the Bells because they've never done it before, and I want them to be able to experience, a little bit about what we do and how what we do it affects other people in a positive way if they want to come and fucking talk to us. You get them on and you see them start blanking out, and I'm like, thank God it's pre-taped. Because if this was live, buddy, we would not be in a good spot here. But it's a fun thing. But I think something I may have said to you or said to you guys. I think it's fucking insane that there's one person on every continent who knows who we are, as far as the platform, the podcasting platform that we've built.
Yeah,
that could be so minor to someone that to me is that is a surreal feeling to know that there's at least one person on every continent that watches what you're doing.
Yeah,
it's crazy, and it's over professional fucking wrestling.
Yeah, and it's the coolest. It's the coolest fucking thing in the world. It always has. I started watching when I was 9, and I never stopped. And wrestling will never not be cool to me, even during some of those really really shitty the Authority era years that were some hard watching. I don't know. There's just something about it that I just cannot pull away from, and I think what's been the most exciting is getting to kind of dive into the independent wrestling scene as a result of this podcast. I mean, telling you that we went to SCI last year. I think it was 2023. The Future Showcase winner was Jay Malachi, who's now main eventing matches in NXT is Javon Evans. Like, you never know who it is and where somebody is going to end up. I mean, when we look back at, and I don't care, I'm putting myself over here, I'm putting our show over here. I think, when the PWI 500 came out last year, we're looking at the list, we had 12 of those people on our show. And it just,
that's what
it was fucking cool. Like, that was kind of that, just like hard work pays off, and we feel validated in what it is that we're doing, because it's a labor of love. I mean, Chris is married, has twins that are almost 3 years old. Like, he's juggling everything under the sun. I'm a full-time lawyer by day, as you know. And this is, we do our day jobs, and then this is our night job once 6:30 hits and that red light goes on. We're talking wrestling, and then getting content out and trying to do what we can to kind of put things everywhere. So
let's talk about this for just a second, because I find it very interesting. You handle a lot of the clipping and the editing and stuff like that on your channel. I want to talk about the work that goes in behind the scenes that nobody will ever see except for the individuals that are doing it, because you guys are a two-man operation, which means that somebody's got to do the grunt work. The easy job is sitting in front of the camera with the light on. The hard job is what comes after. Like, I want people to understand that when you're trying to create content, like, it's not just sit in front of a camera and fucking talk.
Yeah.
That's a piece of it. The work is what a lot of people don't see. So chat me up a little bit about that. How were you able to balance that stuff out? Like, I know you have a personal life. Just like I think people today wig the fuck out when I think I told you what my schedule is. Yeah. It's 40 plus during the week, and another 12 or 14 on live shows, and another 2 to 5 or 5 to 10 hours on editing. How do you balance your shit out with everything that you got going on as well?
Man, it's it is an interesting act, that's for sure. I think the one advantage that has worked for us is because Chris's job is much more manual oriented. He's in office, like, he's always running around. He's a supervisor. He's always got something that he's working on. I'm entirely remote, so I have the fortune of being able to manage my schedule and create pockets of time before or after the workday to do a lot of that show prep and to get everything ready to go, so that way it can be blasted out, throughout the day on our socials. If I were in the same position as Chris, where I'm in an office every single day, I don't know where we would be as far as the growth that we've had over the last couple of years. It was a huge part of it. Is that remote life gave me that balance that I can be the one to take care of these things, because once the show's over, Chris is putting kids to bed. He's getting ready to go to bed to get himself up at 4 a.m. to go to work. Like, it's one of those things where we could not do the show without each other. There's nobody else that and I may joke with him about it, and he jokes with me about wanting new co-hosts, but that chemistry is our secret formula. It just there is, and I've tried. I've had other co-hosts before, and there's just something about the podcast, Dad, that this dynamic just works. I give him shit, he gives me shit. Like, it's just, we want it to feel like, you're just watching your buddies drink beer, talk wrestling, hang out, at the end of a workday. Instead of throwing on Sports Center, throw on the Wrestling Junkies Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on the road to 500 subscribers. We need your help to get there. For everybody that is watching right now, it takes 2 seconds. Just tell your friends, tell your mom. Like I said, tell your situationship, tell your dispensary guy or girl or person.
That is the
community.
Wrestling Junkies Podcast on YouTube, guys. It's right there on the screen. You can also help with social media right there on the screen as well. Junkies Pod on X and Wrestling Junkies Pod on Instagram. So there you go. There we go.
Yeah, and you can actually find us on TikTok as well at Junkies Pod as well. So the same handle on TikTok.
Fuck all that bullshit, bro. I only have time to do 2 social medias. I'm not running. My guys are like, hey, you gonna do this? You gonna do that? I said, where's the fucking time, bro? Like, No.
It's I don't know, man. Like for me, it's always like, I never consider myself to be the most creative person in the world. Like I've got two brothers. My little brother loves to draw. He's fucking amazingly talented at it. Like it's not anything that he pursues professionally or anything like that, but he was always kind of the artsy kid growing up, and I can't draw for shit. Played piano growing up, and it was fine, but I don't know. There's always been something about the creation when it comes to content in our podcast, and I'm just like, what else can we do? And we were talking earlier today about Wrestle Sips. It's essentially a drink series that's on our TikTok channel. Basically, we make wrestling themed cocktails. The most recent one that we had, I think it was our Yeet Punch, celebrating Jay's Royal Rumble win. I've got another one in the can that I need to release that is celebrating our record-holding 4-time Women's World Champion Toni Storm, called the Storm Royale, that I think everybody's really going to enjoy. Like, there's always ways to find something new to incorporate wrestling in. That has always been something I believe. Any school project that I could do just using wrestling, I fucking did it, because it's like that's what I know. I eat, sleep, and breathe it.
Well, you said you jumped into it at 9. What was the story that? Well, when you turned the TV on, I'm saying 9. You probably not going to be looking at the stories, but what about it when you turned on the television? Who was on it? What made you fall in love with it at such a young age?
Man, I think the first couple of names that come to mind, Jeff Hardy, number one. I mean, I think that's every kid. When you're, especially in the year 2000. I started watching. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks before King of the Ring. So I remember the build to that 6-man tag for the WWE title very, very well. I still was kind of trying to figure out who these characters are, what these moves are, and just kind of what's going on as a whole. And this was a time when if you wanted to watch the pay-per-view, you had to either buy it, or you had to wait for the clips to come out on Raw, or you had to wait to go get a magazine just to see the pictures of what happened. But I don't know what it was. I could not get enough. Jeff Hardy, Eddie Guerrero, because this was the height of the angle with China. Trish Stratus. I mean, come on.
Let's go on and on,
like,
bro.
yeah, right.
It's
I don't know. It was just one of those things where we enjoyed it, and then we started to roughhouse and do it, and that's when they're like, okay, you guys can't do this. Like this is dangerous. Like you get and I think that, especially my mom, I think that she thought we'd eventually grow out of it. None of us did.
No. I remember.
No.
My story that hooked me. This is so gonna tell my age here. You got to go back to Flair and Sting. No, sorry, it's earlier than that. It was Dusty getting jumped on by the Horsemen, and I think that was 87.
Oh yeah.
I think that was 87, and I remember, and I was 5 at that time. Wait, yeah, I was 5. I was with my great grandmother, and my great grandmother was like 80, and she's screaming at the TV. And I have no idea why. Like, I'm trying to mentally process this, and I look and I see this, Dusty's getting hammered on by Ole and Arn, and I was wait, what am I watching here? And then every fucking week, she would always come over, and we'd start watching it from there. And it's so crazy because I can't remember anything else. Up until about mid-90s is when I was in my teens. Early teens.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's when I really start processing. All right, like I had to sit through 92, bro. Like be glad that you missed that.
Yeah,
that was terrible. 92, 93. That's not it. Wrestling was.
I don't know. I mean, I went to UC Cincinnati for undergrad. So like 08 to 2012. Those were some interesting times as well, kind of towards the tail end of Shawn Michaels' career. Triple H kind of moving over to SmackDown and taking that over. Like there's a lot of moments that even when I watch like What Culture videos about things that you don't remember, I'm just like, that happened. Like it's just, I mean, the business goes through those periods. It is what it is, and it's nice that wrestling is back in the pop culture lexicon the way that it is. And I mean,
it's.
TKO, Ari Emanuel, like it's he's one of those guys, and I don't know how many people out there know this, but do you remember the TV show Entourage?
Yep, one of my favorites.
Ari Gold is based on Ari Emanuel.
No shit.
If you did not know that, yes,
I did
yes,
not.
that was yes. Ari Emanuel is the basis for Ari Gold, so it's like Ari is a ruthless motherfucker, and we are seeing that in the takeover and how they have wanted WWE to be permeated in everything that it can possibly do. I mean, look at the licensing deals with MLB and NFL, all of the major North American sports, and now the college ranks as well. Like, wrestling has always been pop culture. It's just the waves of when the popularity happens, and they're riding the fuck out of it. Because that wave is going to eventually subside, and things are, we're still kind of in the hype of Vince is gone, and we're seeing these changes in storytelling and creative. And that's not to say that Papa H is perfect by any stretch of the fucking imagination, but it is still better than what we were getting. Especially like when you think through the pandemic, as far as the storytelling they were doing, you can only work with so much as far as the presentation, the Thunderdome, and things like that. But some of that creative was just dog shit.
It was terrible. And bringing up Vince, I recently read, and I'm not saying this is credible, and I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying I've read it, that he's in talks, possibly with Fox, about starting another company. If this is rumor and innuendo, what are your thoughts on this? This is hypothetical because I'm not. Again, I can't even remember or credit where I read it. I just know that I glanced across the headline and I chuckled. But I'm very curious now. What do you think is? What are you thinking?
I think you're going to be hard pressed to find people, especially knowing what WWE's backstage culture is like now that Vince is gone, because Taker has gone on his podcast and talked about, the mood of the locker room is mercurial because it all depends on the mood that Vince is in, and now Taker's saying, well, you see, people filming TikToks and playing video games and doing their streams and all these other things, and having that freedom to bring their personality into their characters. At this point, Vince is a fucking billionaire. What more could you possibly have to contribute to this industry? Like, you are already the greatest wrestling promoter of all time. You are the most successful wrestling promoter of all time, and that's not going to change. I don't know if there's an audience that wants to see a Vince McMahon product in any capacity in 2025. Especially, he was cleared by the feds as far as a criminal investigation, but he still has a very, very real civil lawsuit that he is navigating, and the allegations there are horrendous. I don't know. I personally have no interest in it. I'm good. I have enough to watch. I don't need another Vince McMahon product. Like this is one of those things where, going back to Ari's ruthlessness, I think Vince thought that he was going to be able to get one over, sell the company, make his bag, and negotiate that power back to him so he didn't have to give it up. But at that point, he had never had a boss. I mean, his dad was his boss, but he had never had somebody that will say, hey, you know what? We're done here. You need to sell your shit. Like, we need you out of here. And, Ari is all about letting people do the job that they are assigned. And because Triple H was put in charge of creative, he wanted Triple H to handle that. He didn't need Vince to oversee Hunter doing that. But yeah, I hope that this remains rumor and innuendo, because I have no interest in seeing it.
I don't either. And if it comes to light, I don't like, again, I don't like being negative, but I don't think I could support it. I don't think I would support it. I don't think I would be able to support it. This is what's going to sound terrible. Is I don't think I could support anybody that was supporting it. I'm not a fan. I think it's great that he's out, and he just needs to stay out. Like, don't get me wrong. We don't have professional wrestling today without Vince McMahon. That makes me barf in the back of my mouth to have to say that, but it's a fact. I can appreciate what he did in the 80s for making the WWF what it was and getting us to where we are now. But no, you can keep your ball, stay home. I think everybody. Well, I'm not gonna speak for everybody. Speak for
Count
myself.
your billions.
There you go. Do that. Where would you like to see? And this can be WWE, it could be AEW, it could be on the Indies. What do you want to see? Where do you think the industry is going to go in the next 5 to 10?
Man, that is a great question.
It's filled with endless possibilities, so you can't. There's no wrong
it
answer.
really is. Yeah, it really is, and especially now that we're kind of looking ahead to Peacock's deal with WWE. I think we've got about a year left on that. It would not surprise me if WWE tries to return to some type of pay-per-view model for their events. I think that that's kind of their next. I think that that's kind of their next objective, is kind of trying to bring that back in some capacity, whether that be through Netflix or maybe a deal with ESPN Plus, because the UFC already has that deal that allows people to get discounted prices on monthly events. But I love the idea of the WWE ID program and how they're identifying talent. In these early stages and still letting them work the indies, but they're kind of getting that guidance of the WWE machine from very, very early on. And if you can get it at the root and create your own kind of scouting program, which they've done. I mean, Shawn Michaels and Triple H have done a masterful job of that through NXT, and now they're evolving that with WWE ID and having the weekly Evolve series with Gabe Sapolsky. That's really fucking cool that they're trying to make this as in-house as possible, because it is such a 24/7, 365 lifestyle that start them while you can so they can learn that while getting the reps in elsewhere. Really, really excited about that. AEW, that one's harder to predict for me. I mean, at this point, we're 6 years in. They're not the new kids on the block anymore. I really want to see them better use the talent that they have on hand, as opposed to trying to swoop up every coveted free agent. Like next, we just had Gabe Kidd come in, debuted on Collision a couple of weeks ago. Josh Alexander is reportedly leaning AEW over WWE. It's another new toy, but that means that somebody else is going to fall by the wayside. Daniel Garcia is a great example of that. Put the TNT title on him so he signs the extension, and then you don't do anything with him once he's signed it. That's kind of fucked, but that's business.
No, that's TK. That's sorry, not really.
That's yeah.
No,
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say that's TK, man. There's no excuse at this point. But yes, that's where I was going. But go ahead, finish where you think we're going to be in the next 5, because AEW is a touchy subject. I don't know if
I mean,
in 5 years.
I think that they are. Warner Brothers Discovery paying them millions and millions of dollars a year is that's. I mean, this is not a WCW situation where the networks don't want the product. They very clearly do. I think that they have seen an increase in Max subscribers since they've added the Bleacher Report sports package and picked up the AEW streaming rights. So I do think the company is still there in 10 years. I want to see them do a better job of utilizing, especially their AEW originals. It seems like there were a lot of names that they just kind of let fade away or let contracts expire so that they could bring in the free agents and feel like they can compete and be, or at least be perceived as being on the same level as WWE with the names that they're bringing in. But that's still at the detriment of people that, were getting reps, especially, people that were getting on Dark Elevation, Rampage. Now you've just got Dynamite and Collision, 4 hours of TV a week. And you've also got Ring of Honor, which, people are still paying for Honor Club. If you can find a network to get a TV deal with, that's another way to use some of this talent to put them over there so that you are making, again, the best use of what you have before you think about, okay, this person is available, let's bring them in. No real plan, give them a great angle, but then the follow-up sucks, and that happens a lot. But as far as the indies go, social media has helped, make this world feel a lot smaller, so you can check out promotions from all over the world thanks to YouTube and TikTok and Twitter and various social media platforms. So definitely continue to see a rise in that, and I want to see more I want to see more shows like, Joey Janela's Spring Break, Effie's Big Gay Brunch, like where wrestlers are booking their own events. TW in Chattanooga, our friend Jameson Shook, he's got Good to Go coming up March 28th, I want to say it is. I mean, these are ambitious undertakings. They're not, we had Matt Griffin on the show last night. It is not easy being a wrestling promoter, but when talent want to take that initiative to do that themselves and learn how to do this, I fucking love that, and I want to see more people do more of that.
I think that as far as the independent circuit is concerned, I don't think it's ever going backwards. I think that it is going to, that the movement is there, and all bets are off. I'd love to see more big gay brunches. There's the world, we can't have enough of those, in my opinion.
Especially because now that Vince is gone and WWE is much more relaxed about letting wrestlers go work other events and things, like that's all fallen downhill. That once talent is released, indie promoters want to swoop them up. They want to have them come in, whether it's a one-off appearance, whether it's a signing, something. So that's also the additional benefit that we've seen, is that you can go to your local independent promotion and there's there's a chance that you could see somebody that you've seen wrestle on your TV screen. I love that that's where we're going now, is that these people are finding these opportunities elsewhere, and that fans want to support these, it's so important to support independent wrestling, because you don't know who is going to end up on your TV one day. You just don't. And from an entertainment standpoint, a Friday night, couple of hours to enjoy some good matches, and if you've got kids, a lot of shows or kids get in free. It's a good family-friendly night out more often than not, as far as most promotions. Support your local feds. Seriously,
you have to. You've got to. I love your whole outlook on wrestling and the whole deal all the way around. UK Paul says, "Hey, Mr. Cincinnati, I hope you're well." he looks pretty well.
I am. Thank you.
What else you want to talk about? You got anything else on your mind? You got anything you want to? I mean, obviously you want to plug your shit before we start winding things down here. But is there anything specific?
Yeah. Before I do plugs, I think one final topic here, because I don't think we've had any conversations about this. But let's talk about the women's elimination chamber match tomorrow. Liv and Raquel are the new women's tag team champions, which frees up Bianca and Naomi. Do you think that we get Jade Cargill back Saturday, or is this something you wait a few more days and wait till Raw?
I think if you get Jade back on Saturday, it's not during the match, it's after. Or it's during.
Yeah.
Or is there... I'm thinking that when Jade comes back, she's going heel. I don't think the Chamber's the place for her to make that move. Unless it is to... If it's a backstage spot where... And she's got to... I mean, unless you're pushing Bianca towards a championship match right now, Mania's... And this is so aggravating for me for Bianca's positioning right now, because she should be so much higher up on the card, in my opinion. If you're going to go Bianca Jade, I think you go the route of... you remember when Punk had the championship and he got... who was it? Was it Punk who got attacked and Edge took his place in a chamber match?
Kofi. Yeah, Kofi took the concerto on the steps there. Yeah.
Okay, so it's Kofi. Unless you do something like that and you slide Jade in there, but here's my concern. And it's... I don't think Jade is still... I don't think she's still ready. And I say that because does she get a reaction? Absolutely. I'm not denying that she's over like a rover with the crowd. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the ring work. I can't honestly tell you that I can watch consecutive Jade matches back to back to back that happen back to back to back, and get through them without mistakes being made, and not minor mistakes.
No, you're right. Yeah,
you see what I'm saying? So I don't. I think that she, when she signed with the Fed, that was one of the signings that I rejoiced over. Because in my head, I'm like, she can go through the system at NXT. Clearly, she either didn't train as much as she should have for TK threw her on TV because she wasn't ready for that. But now, we can get her through this process, and we can get the Jade Cargill that needs to be seen. I'm not saying that all of her matches are sloppy. I'm not saying that all of her matches are bad, or I'm not saying that they're.
But when the
good.
mistakes happen, they are evident.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those situations. Do you put her in this position on a major platform like WrestleMania? But in my head, that's the next big match that Bianca could have, and if anybody could make that happen and get it, I'm not gonna say, as Paul Heyman used to say, accentuate the positives, hide the negatives. With Jade Cargill, I believe that Bianca could, and I don't see Jade winning that match, but it would be, if it's done right and the build was there, like you have Jade take her out, a la right before the chamber match, and you have a surprise replacement, whoever that ends up being.
Yeah,
that could happen, or maybe she takes out both Bianca and Naomi, because I would feel much more comfortable in a tag situation there. Although I'm not, again, I think Bianca deserves better. But Naomi is fucking fantastic. If you get Jade with another veteran against Bianca, Naomi, I would feel way more comfortable. We could also have Jade's partner take the fall. You can move into Bianca and Jade, not necessarily at a Mania, and circle back around to a Mania match way down the line, when it would mean much more. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer, but
no, it's okay.
In my head, that's the way I would do it, or the way it would make sense for me.
Yeah, and I'm going to have an equally lengthy response here, because Bianca seems like the easy, clear-cut winner. She was protected in the finish of the women's tag title match. She did not take the fall. Bianca versus Rhea is a match that it's one of the few dream matches that are still left in WWE, and I don't know if it's by design or what, but they have done a great job of keeping these two apart for the most part during their entire WWE careers, despite the fact they've both been on NXT, they've both been on Raw at the same time. They've teamed up at War Games, but the concern that I have of Bianca winning now is it feels so forced to begin this program with just 6 weeks to go. And these two deserve a proper, lengthy build, because there has been the tension. These are two cornerstones of the women's division right now. I mean, so my prediction, as far as going on the record, has always been, it's been Bianca, but Podcast Dad has a dark horse pick, and so do I. Podcast Dad says there's no reason Alexa Bliss couldn't win. She has returned since the Rumble, really has not done anything of note. She has, her dance card is empty for WrestleMania right now. It's a fresh matchup, Rhea versus Alexa Bliss. I'm not sure if they're waiting for whoever in the Wyatt Six is banged up right now to bring the group back to TV, or kind of what the plan is with that. But Alexa versus Rhea is a fun match that we've never seen before, that, given the time that's left to build that program for Rhea, that's an opponent that I think is perfectly acceptable there.
And, and also, did you heard her reaction at the Rumble? I mean, you were there. Right?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
So, I mean, that was Road Warrior pop. Road Warrior. That's the only way I could describe it. And yes, that's viable. And then we could really start building to Bianca, because I 1,000% agree with you that is a program that needs to be presented in a long form fashion, because it's going to be monumental when it happens, because it is one of the few dream matches that you got left. And as you're building the other women up from NXT, I think when Roxanne Perez is if she's called up now, if I'm not mistaken, because she's involved in the chamber. I think that's another one that you're going to be seeing.
And that was the one I was going to throw out, because she was the Iron Woman at the Rumble. We have known that Roxanne's ready for the main roster for ages now. It was the character development of this heel persona. What can we do with this here? So she kind of was bridging a gap between generations of NXT and carried the banner very, very well. There is no reason that she can't win this match because of how she's been positioned already on the main roster. She is a fucking prodigy. She's called that for a reason. She's going to be the face of that division for years to come. She's only 23. I say that her winning the Chamber is not out of the realm of imagination here. Even though there is the program with Bayley that'll probably happen at either Stand and Deliver or WrestleMania. I would hope Stand and Deliver. But if you put Roxanne up against Rhea and Rhea gets a great win, that doesn't hurt Roxanne. It's her first WrestleMania. She's been positioned as a star. She needs to be humbled. She was cocky as shit during this third NXT Women's Championship run, and it would be easy for her to assume that she's just going to go do the same thing on the main roster. And I'm just picturing Rhea just kind of holding her back as she's trying to, like that. It's just like, no, like
Yeah.
you're going to learn that that there are people bigger and badder than you, as good as you are. It's a great story. It's a fresh match. A loss at WrestleMania for Roxanne does not hurt her in her first WrestleMania because she will be main eventing for years to come.
At 1,000% agree. That there's so much things happening there, and that is truly a pick 'em. I really hope that they do something with Bianca. And I was originally leaning back Rumble-esque for Bianca and Rhea at Mania, but I don't think that now is the time. I do think I kind of lean towards that needs to, like, that program should have started in like Survivor Series and then built it. And it would be massive. It's that's one of those that's gonna be toss of the coin. I mean, fuck it, man. Let's talk about the men's chamber real quick. I mean, that's loaded.
Okay. Yeah.
I know that is, and then we'll get out of here. Give me your thoughts on it.
Yeah. So WWE is doing a great job of teasing various contenders for Logan Paul at WrestleMania. The slap to the face of CM Punk this past week, and then talking to AJ Styles. I don't want to see Logan Paul versus CM Punk at WrestleMania. That's a SummerSlam match. This is CM Punk's first WrestleMania match since he's come back because he was on the shelf last year. Logan Paul is not a good first opponent here. With the heat that CM Punk has generated with this program with Drew McIntyre, he needs somebody on that level to have a one-on-one program with. That's not to say that the match between these two wouldn't be great. It just doesn't need to happen in Vegas. I don't know, and maybe that's shitty of me to think, okay, yes, this is a match I want to see at one event, but not another. I just think that when it comes to WrestleMania, the biggest show of the year, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre had the rivalry of the year, one of the best matches of the year inside Hell in a Cell. Your reward for all your hard work is Logan Paul. I'm not okay with that. I don't know if we're looking at the triple threat still with Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, but I do think that the Tribal Chief does show up in Toronto this weekend. I think that he ends up finding a way inside the chamber to deliver a spear to Seth Rollins, costing him the chamber, sets them up for a WrestleMania program because Rollins was with both feet stomping Reigns into the face of the earth at the Rumble. He's not going to forget that, and we've not had a proper Rollins-Reigns WrestleMania match. That's dollar signs to me. But ultimately, I think Super Cena gets the win here. He's calling his shot. He wants that 17th world title. He believes he's best for business. It's the first time that he's really saying, "I'm John Cena. I'm going to do what I want." Saying I'm going to be in the chamber after that press conference. I see him winning this. He wants to go to WrestleMania. That 17th title, it happens this year, and that starts at Elimination Chamber.
So you're thinking that we're going to see maybe Cena. Well, we've got Cena and Rhodes. That's where you think we're headed?
Yeah, I think so. Because there's only one opportunity to do that generational passing of the torch match. Podcast data said, yeah, you could save that for SummerSlam, and yeah, you could, but no, that's a WrestleMania match. That is two faces of the respective generations. It's John Cena's final WrestleMania. Why should he be competing against the current face of the company?
That's a valid argument. That is a very valid argument. I don't see a whole lot of holes in that. I think that it's loaded for sure. And I'm curious now.
Yeah.
It takes me to one other point. Like, do we know what the favor that the wise man owes to CM Punk? Has that ever,
not yet?
We haven't circled around to that yet, huh?
It's it's been alluded to, Jackie Redmond in interviews with CM Punk for pre-shows and things like that. It has been discussed, but Punk is keeping very, very tight-lipped. I don't know. I think that's something we should get, start to pull on that thread a little bit come Saturday. Because whatever it is, whenever it's going to happen, it's going to feel like some mafia style kind of shit. I just can't wait. I can't wait for the chaos.
I'm here for it. I'm going to be tuning in tomorrow night for sure, man. I have absolutely loved having you on this show and sitting down just chit-chatting with you about whatever the fuck has come up, man. This is why I enjoy these programs. Go ahead and tell our audience where they can find you. If you can't see it on the screen already, we'll just go ahead and let them in. He's got the best pitch in all of podcasting. I'm gonna hit him. Just hit him with it, Mr. Cincinnati.
Well, Chris, first of all, the pleasure is all mine. Cannot wait to come back. Podcast Dad, you missed a hell of a show here. I know you're drinking your face off on Bourbon Street, but I digress. So you can check us out. Yeah, seriously. You can check us out on X and TikTok at Junkies Pod. Like us on Facebook, Instagram. We are at Wrestling Junkies Pod on Instagram. But yeah, most importantly, just subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tell one person. If you check out our show, we're live Monday through Thursday nights, 6:30 Eastern. We have great guests. We do recaps of all the weekly TV on AEW, WWE. We really just want to see a couple of guys bullshitting, talking wrestling, and very much like this conversation with Chris here. This is your invitation to come hang out, come join our community. Tell one person. If you like what you see us doing on our channel, spread the love. No gatekeeping here. We enjoy what we do. We love talking wrestling with people. We love when people are engaging with us in the chats and giving us things to bounce around, much like this conversation with Chris here. So yeah, we encourage you to check it out, subscribe, support our friends over at Coastal Empire Wrestling at CEW Savannah on X, and shout out to our sponsors, Gorilla Press Apparel, gorillapressapparel.bigcartel.com. If you use promo code WJP2024, that gets you 25% off site-wide. Shout out to the crew over there, hardworking guys, and support our friends at the Main Event Wrestling Network at mainevent_net. If you like what you got here, check out On the Mark podcast, check out Tino's Time, check out Great Brown Hope's Top 5 at 5. It's a great blog series. Robbie and Kine, we've got NXT Night Shift is a new show that's going to be coming soon, where it's an exclusive NXT post show. A lot of moves being made at the Main Event Network at mainevent_net. Come check us out. Join the crew.
This has been fantastic, my man. I can't wait to circle back around and get Pod Dad back on, get you back on with him. We're going to do a Beyond the Bell with we're going to dive deep into your platform and all kinds of shit, man. It's been a fun conversation. It's been right there on the screen the whole time, guys. You need to go hit that subscribe button. If you have not done so, and while you're over on YouTube and you're smashing that subscribe button at the Wrestling Junkies Podcast, if you have not subscribed to CCP Podcast, do the same thing. Hit the subscribe button. Our road to 800 is literally, we're knocking on that door. It's 1,000's right around the corner. I want it by the time I'm 43. September 23rd is our date. We have 207 of you. That's all I need. And you'll make me a very happy man. For Mr. Cincinnati, I am Chris Page. We'll see you next time.